CRWS, Countering Racism, White Supremacy Book Club. Like, share, subscribe, and comment below.
Greetings, everyone. Welcome to CRWS Counter Racist Review Analysis Decoding on episode 9 of Atlanta, season 3, Rich Wigga, Poor Wigga. Today is May 13th, Friday the 13th, 2022. This episode, like the entire series, very tacky, trashy, and terroristic, full of anti-Black propaganda, and I would say racist propaganda, but I use anti-Black because we mostly see non-white people mistreating non-white people or Black people mistreating Black people, however you want to phrase it. It's very, very incorrect. And this episode is about racial classification confusion. We have Aaron is a victim of racism, but he is very much white identified. He thinks and speaks like a usual suspect, like a white supremacist. But most of us probably do when you've been trained in the system of white supremacy. I thought this episode was I don't know, I didn't think that. I knew it was gonna be filth. The episode was very much filth, but this character here, he's a victim of racism who is not aware. He has absolutely no clue he's a victim of racism, which is why he behaves in the manner that he does. No one working on the show or involved inside the show, I don't think they understand white supremacy or their position, which is why I think there's so much anti-Blackness in the show, because instead of the writers and the showrunners, wanting to help Black people, wanting Black people to stop being mistreated on the basis of their color, they seem to rather poke fun at our situation, rather poke fun at what it means to be Black. And there's this show, I suspect, like all shows, all Hollywood pieces of propaganda and whatnot, they tap into the occult, the hidden. I suspect there are things going on behind the scenes that went on behind the scenes that we will not be allowed that information. Because right before, and I say that because right before Kevin Samuel makes his appearance, what does his associate say? Right before he goes on, it's really brief. He says, "Knock him dead." Right before Kevin Samuels, another victim of racism, by the way, Kevin Samuels. Right before he comes on the screen, one of his associates says, "Knock him dead." And before this episode even aired, I suspect Kevin Samuel was already being announced deceased. But that's a broadcast on its own. The occult ramifications of Hollywood and TV. But his character, again, is a character who is very, very confused about the system of white supremacy. He does not understand what it means to be Black. Being Black is being classified as Black. First of all, we had nothing to do with being Black. White people said, "Hey, we're gonna classify you all as Black, and we're gonna keep you at the bottom of our system." It has nothing to do with chicken. Has nothing to do with sort of music you listen to. It's your position. You're on planet Earth. So, and I mentioned that because we see like this Kevin Samuels character, Robert Shea Lee, which is some sort of inside joke. He's assuming that being Black is like wearing do-rags, having wave checks, being able to sing and dance and have rhythm. That this is all racial stereotypes, racist propaganda that we've seen over and over and over. But the show writers, because they're like myself, confused victims of racism, this is the best that they could do. Is this pitiful display of entertainment. This is tragically enough, this is what we are programmed to laugh at. Our super pathetic state of confusion, of not knowing what the hell is happening. Like every single non-white person in this episode is confused about their position of being non-white and being a victim of white supremacy. Every single non-white person. And then he goes into this, we see a little area 8 confusion. Area 8 is sex for folks who are not aware of area 8. And then he goes into some sort of tribunal where the racial classification and confusion is definitely depicted. Start asking them a bunch of, I'm gonna say retarded questions because that's what they are. And then Kevin Samuel's character says something really, this can be applied to non-white people globally. The way we have been taught to think, the way we have been taught to behave is very stupid, very silly. And it's because of all areas of people activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. It's because in all of these people activities, all of these areas, we are trained in a very sophisticated manner to think stupidly and behave stupidly. And that's how the system is maintained. We have to behave very, very silly in order for the system to be in place. So when we are watching TV, that's what they're conditioning us to do, to remain in our position, to keep up the tacky, trashy, and terroristic interactions that we have with one another. That's what TV is for, to keep us accustomed to being mistreated and to, get very used and remain comfortable laughing at Black people's misery. Laugh at Black people's confusion. Okay, that's what we're seeing here. Donald Glover is very confused. He may even hate Black people for all I can tell, because this show is absolutely just racist propaganda, anti-Black propaganda. Donald Glover cannot be a racist, so I say anti-Black. But the showrunners, the white people who allow this to be on the air, those people I suspect to be white supremacists for sure. And the episode just looking at it, and then from a more confused standpoint, it was just, I would say, bad writing. Just not a good story. And I would say not well put together. But let me also go to some coded imagery that I saw, that I noticed. But his room's full of little coded images. One thing that always pops out, and we should really get comfortable of understanding this racist code that they love using, is the ape. It's always some sort of chimp. Always some sort of chimp. And white people, they have a really fascinating relationship with chimps and apes. That they relate to them. I suspect they're related to them because chimpanzees are known for attacking the genitals of other chimpanzees, and that's sort of what racist men and racist women do. They go around controlling the genitals and attacking the genitals of other people who they classify as non-white. So the chimpanzee, we're going to see a lot of that, and also code non-white people to be chimpanzees. It's really bizarre, the kind of situation we are actually in when we think about white supremacy. When we understand that we are in a system of white supremacy, it's super insane, the sort of conversations that have to be had about the symbols that exist, the codes that exist in this racist system known as white supremacy.
Remind me of the
one more second. The Logan Paul comedy tour. That's another famous white supremacist who's famous for clowning on Black people in a really, really refined way. We also see Post Malone on here, another white supremacist who's famous for, imitating so-called Black culture, pretending to be a Black person, and finding way more success than the average non-white person who tries to do that, who tries to become a rapper. But that's all I have for now.
Miss Ash, where you gonna go? All right, I'll go. This episode definitely tacky, trashy, and terroristic. It's like they just sat on Twitter and just made it, just start writing stuff. First of all, I just want to say I haven't seen too many shows done, whether syndicated or live, where it comes on weekly, where somebody passes away and they still air the show. I found that highly terroristic first and then trashy. There's people still mourning over this victim and this transition, and then here just comes the buffoonery. And I suspect that it was written by the usual suspects. They'll put up people's names to be little place markers, but this is what racism is about. Is this episode? It's clowning the dead, clowning the living victims, and just having fun while doing it. The symbolism to me, in very, very modern relevance with the chimpanzee on the wall is we can look right now to NFTs, and we can look at all the different monkey NFTs that hold all this value between all the people who support it with their finances. Not just, I'm going to sign a piece of paper. No, you have to put money behind this monkey avatar. So it's just very chilling of the ridiculous system that we've been forced into.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the same thing about the NFTs. So I thought it was really interesting that you brought it up too. That's what the I guess painting or artwork reminded me of, and I agree too about the it's just so odd that it's within the same week that Kevin Samuels died, and no one had any knowledge that he would. I mean, general public had any knowledge that he would be in this episode, and his name has been like everywhere in terms of people who may not have been familiar with his work or him. Like so many people were after this week because he died. It's just all very strange. Like I don't know how to explain it, but it's just very eerie. And I do think it also is very strange to premiere it because it's such a demeaning role that he also played. I mean, I guess it's supposed to be a comedy, but I don't know. It's so strange to me that he's in this episode.
Yeah, and there's this episode, like most TV, really, really dangerous because it promotes the same incorrect thinking, the same illogical thought patterns that we have been given our entire existence. Especially when we hear the white students talk about these talking points from these white students are very common, and they definitely think, some of them are led to think, the less intelligent white people who may be racist, they're led to think that Black people are like getting a lot of stuff. We benefit from being in the system, and if they're actually being honest, or if they were a little more intelligent and using their position as a white person to actually gain the insight of how the system works. And they should know that. I suspect they know that, but they would know that the biggest welfare system on the planet is white supremacy, and the beneficiaries of that system are white people. And I just like this show goes above and beyond to show Black people being super silly. And it could be because that's how we actually are, but I have never been on a campus where they allow hold on, let me get it on the screen. Hopefully where they allow students to just be hanging out on rooftops. And we always have to see Black people being super extra stupid in this series for some reason. And we also got to get to see a Black male get shot, well, looked like to me, in the head, but he survived, thankfully. In the show, we didn't have to see a Black male get killed as well. But I thought this episode was very really grotesque, especially this part where we have like this conversation where anti-Blackness from, I would say anti-Blackness from probably both of these victims of racism, because they're trying to harm each other. But their dialogue is just the same putrid, retarded thinking that we have been led to believe by racist men and racist women. Same stuff you hear on Twitter all day, I suspect, about, people like ADOS, and like people from the area of the world known as Africa, how they're not really Black. But hey, if you have color in your skin and you are not a white person, that's all that matters. You're Black. Honestly, if you really want to talk about it, every single non-white person is, in the eyes of the white supremacists, is just considered a different shade of Black. They all treated like a Black person. Just those who are the darkest Black people, they get it the worst. They definitely get it the worst. And super, super stupid. And also, I don't know if they're trying to like make something about video games promoting violence or causing violence, something like that. That's all accurate, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the biggest thing promoting and causing violence is the system of white supremacy, especially just what it does to a person's mind is so tragic, because the people behind the show, I'm sure they have to be themselves as somewhat intelligent, but the show is just promoting absolute garbage. And what is a person supposed to come away thinking after watching something like this? Being classified as Black sucks? That's how it's what I see, even without watching this show. And and just the portrayal of Kevin Samuels is just buffoonery. This show, I know why it's acclaimed. It's because it does a masterful job at depicting Black people as absolutely just super incorrect, in a super incorrect way. And it shows Black people harming each other and being super incorrect with one another in a really glamorous way. And that's what the racist man and racist woman, that's what they like. Show our subjects harming one another, and I want them laughing at it. I want Black people laughing at their condition of being my victims, my subjects. I want them laughing about it. And this show does that, I think. This show has us laughing at how stupidly we've been trained to be by white people, especially the white people who practice racism. And I'm sure there's a ton to say about how he comes into his Blackness. It can't be described as, I'm pretty sure, but he's still a victim of racism, pretending to be. something else. Pretending, I suspect. And then promoting the anti-sex in the form of sex with a white person. And a white person should never ever be attractive to a non-white person. That's like, it's basically saying, it's like I'm a soldier on a battlefield and I see an enemy soldier and I say that enemy soldier is attractive to me. It's makes no sense because it's not supposed to. White people are not attractive because there's nothing attractive about them allowing the system to be in place that keeps me in the condition that I am. It's just absolute gutter. Would not advise this show to anyone unless you are decoding it in some way, shape, or form. Ash, did you want to share some more notes?
Okay, so white people classify other people as white or non-white, right? So didn't it seem like he was white, because it seemed like the other white people classified him as white? I don't even know if they knew he, like from what I saw, it didn't seem like they classified him as non-white. He doesn't look like he has any color in his skin.
Yeah, and honestly, it depends on what the racists classify him as. And it looked like, yeah, they classify him as a white person. And to me, he functioned. To me, he functioned like as both. He functioned as he functioned as a suspected racist because he behaved like one, and he also functioned as a victim to me because it seems very confused about what's going on. And that's also another danger of producing, when white people capture a victim, rape that victim, and then have an offspring with that person. That's one of the worst things that can happen, because the offspring is born super confused, because they come into a system where they have all these code terms for being a victim, like mixed race, product of an interracial couple, half white, half black, all these coded terms that mean nigger, victim of racism. So it's just yeah. So according to the code, he probably is a white person because he's accepted and classified as white by other white people. So yeah, well, did you have anything to say about that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh wow, this episode. This episode almost needs like it's another separate decoding because there's so much here. I suspect that Donald Glover didn't write this because this is a masterful display. This is too masterful of racism for Donald Glover to write this. First of all, the episode's in black and white. That's the first note I had. It's in black and white. Second, it never shows the suspected victim's mother. Usually they try to, usual tropes, they keep the father out of things. They made a point to keep the father. All the focus was on what Black people are doing. What I got out of this in my decoding overall is this is a role reversal. It's usually white children who play these video games get mad because Black non-white teenagers are dating white women, then they go and burn up the school. This whole thing was focused on this ambiguous character that nobody knows who he really is. He can function as both. And it's funny, the Kevin Samuels avatar said, "You've been passing." I wrote that in all capital letters. I suspect that the mother is white in this episode, but they don't want to say it on purpose. There was a lot going on this episode that was definitely of the occult, like you said. Yeah, just masterful racism, white supremacy at work on the visual media.
Yeah, the black and white is very telling that, hey, yeah, this is about race. We're talking about the race problem here, but oftentimes when we're talking about the race problem, especially when we are confused, we are focusing on the wrong aspects of it. We're focusing on the victims and not the people causing the problem, the white people who are practicing racism. So yeah, excellent analysis of the whole role reverse. So yeah, because victims of racism don't have the power to do stuff like this, to build a flamethrower. What? You're right. Yeah, right. Yeah.
And speaking about that, what is up with this? Is like the second Atlanta episode where the black parent has been so unhelpful / possibly detrimental, right? The first one was with the mom on the first episode when she basically gave her children away to be her child away to be kidnapped. And then this father or this attempted father or victim father, because he's not really attempting, is not trying to help his son be able to navigate the world once he leaves the confines of high school. And then he says, I'm not going to help you in any capacity, but I'm going to add this extra responsibility of you paying rent. And then he says all of that to him. And as the son walks away, he says, I love you. And I just really wonder what Donald Glover thinks the capabilities of. I understand that most Black parents cannot be parents, they're victim parents. But if you have this show and you have this platform, at least give Black people an idea of what they could be. But it's like all I ever see is these Black attempted or victim parents do a horrible job and not even care about them.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I just want to say I also noticed a black male not even attempted victim father being just so helpless. He can't help his victim child at all, at all. And it reminds me of the ancient this is this ancient tactic that we've been seeing for a long time now, which is we have these children who we call half white, and then they grow up with a black parent, so-called black parent, and they grow up with the real parent, the white one, and then they treat the black parent way more discourteous than they do the white parent. And that's because the system is so powerful that they're getting messages that, hey, this the darker one of my parents is the one I'm supposed to mistreat. The white one is the one I'm supposed to worship and give courtesy to. So yeah, this is that's what I also get from just so-called interracial mixing or whatever in general. Even the term I just use is super incorrect and not accurately describing what's happening. What's actually happening is white people who practice racism, and they want to practice it in a super aggressive manner. A way they will do that is they will choose a non-white person, and they will have that non-white person think that they are now in a relationship. But what is actually happening is that non-white person is getting raped over and over. And due to that reality, they're becoming weaker in the mind, and then they will have offspring who are weak in the mind, and they will definitely not be able to understand what's happening or their position in the system of white supremacy unless that information is presented to them, which is super rare. But yeah, what's happening is that white people are choosing some victims to procreate with, and it's causing a lot of confusion, which is why one of the code is no sex with white people while white supremacy exists. Very simple. Very simple.
Another, I think what you said was very accurate. Another theme that I'm noticing in this television show is that whenever Black people get anything, they squander it by being silly. Because in the reparations episode, right, the lady's like having people over, and it's like she's constantly going to the person's house, and then they're like, I mean, they showed in that episode Black people kind of wasting their money, and then in this episode, isn't there a scene where there was a girl twerking because of the award, because of the scholarship she got? It's almost as if, like, I don't know, the people who make this show don't think that Black people should deserve any form of, any tiny bit or form of repair for the situation that they're in, because they're just going to waste it anyway because they're just, dumb N-words.
Well, that's why that's why I theorized that it's not really written by John. This reminds me a lot of I believe his last name is Tiedemann, the man that wrote Shaft. When I was more confused, I would have looked at this and just been like, oh man, Donald Glover don't like Black people. Or whatever way I wanted to look at it, outside of looking at it through a counter-racist lens. So much of Atlanta is just like you said, is focused on what Black people are doing, or let's say, or how we view Donald Glover talking about, quote unquote, people who are classified as Black. That's why I suspect that it's written by professionals, by people who know how to talk about Black people. Why? Because they created us. There's just too much going on. Like, in my opinion, I think his name is on the screen for that exact reason, to make non-whites think that he wrote it. And then it becomes this great introspective writing, when it's really just masterful propaganda to assist how the world views non-white people classified as Black, and then how we accept how we look at it, and then we laugh at it, knowing that laughter is the main tactic to get somebody off their guard. Who has anybody ever seen who laughs when they're in war? It doesn't really work like that. You have to, this is masterful writing. Masterful writing, master deception. Because it's too viewed to be looked at Black people, and then the tension with the father and the son. To me, it looked like it was a white mother, and his father had been trying to raise his child knowing what it means to be Black, but it seems like the son always agreed with the mother.
Yeah, well, from the chat, what's the code says, Aaron is being raised by uncle and aunt, not his attempted parents. So maybe this is not his father. I thought it was his father. So maybe the chat is wrong, or maybe we're wrong.
No, they say it's his uncle.
Okay, so it's his uncle. Never mind. So this is his uncle. So a helpless uncle. Yeah, I don't know if you can continue. I just wanted to make that correction.
Thank you. I just want to I just saw this division that he's trying to explain to him what it means to be quote unquote Black, which is to be victimized. Like, yeah, I wish you would be pulled over so you could understand what I'm talking about, but that doesn't really clear up anything, because it was just masterful confusion. There's too much confusion being written by Donald Glover.
Also to add, on what you said, how the uncle wanted him to be victimized, saying, I wish you would get pulled over by the cops. When the cops showed up at the school, they shot the black child. you know, he froze, right? He said that they just need to freeze, duh. And he froze when, you know, that kind of, I guess, promotes the idea that, hey, maybe Black people just aren't listening. You know, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think, you know, listening to the comments that you've been saying, I think, you know, this show tells me, and much of like the entertainment that we see, is that there's no attempt to inform Black people about anything. You know, it seems like they just want to continue showing the current condition of Black people, you know, how they're acting, what they're doing, but no attempt to inform them. And I think, you know, by constantly showing the conditions that Black people find themselves in, a, you know, a confused, silly, pitiful state, it just goes on to perpetuate the system and keep the system going.
I mean, yeah, and I appreciate what you said, Kwaku. And Mr. Robert Shea said, "Getting shot is the blackest thing anybody can do." So this show is promoting that, hey, Black people are supposed to get shot. You know, and the show writers allegedly are two victims of racism. One of them may have a white parent, Stephanie Robinson. She may have a white parent, but allegedly two victims of racism wrote this. So they have either been trained really, really, really well by racist and racist women, and the programming has computed the, hey, I also hate Black people programming that we're all supposed to have that we're all supposed to have in the system is being communicated here. Or they are also white people are also behind the writing behind the show. I don't know, but it's what's being promoted here. I definitely know that, hey, Black people are supposed to be, we're supposed to be silly. We're supposed to, hey, if anybody's gonna get shot, let it be a nigger. This is what this show is promoting. And what's the code said something really interesting from the chat. She said, opening scene starts off with Travis Scott's song Escape, while I think it's called Escape Plan, while playing video games. And I'm like, that's interesting, because racist men and racist women, they definitely have created video games, and they use video games to compensate for their need to aggress on something. And also they I suspect they use it to escape from, you know, the experience of, hey, I don't have a color in my skin, let me go in a video game where I can't have color in my skin, where I can honestly be anything I want to be, really, in a video game, you know. But when I am reminded of my real existence, like when he was reminded that he wasn't going to be able to go to college, maybe, when he's reminded of his existence, he could also use video games to channel that animosity to some non-white people, which we also see him doing that. Him definitely functioning as a well, he even looks super white in this scene. So yeah, that's a good catch, I think.
I don't know if it's been discussed, but this is this a white person? You know, I kind of had to ask myself that a couple times. You know, I don't know what everyone else thinks.
I thought that. I just would just say real quick. When we first started, I didn't hear anything. The whole video game scene in the beginning, and I'm literally reading the subtitles. I'm thinking that this guy is white playing this game, and he's talking to Black people. I'm like, oh, this is typical. That's why I was like, oh, this seems a lot like what white children do, but it's looked at as a Black person's doing it. Because by the time the sound came back, and then Travis Scott comes on, then I'm like, oh, then I get a whole different mind state of what I'm looking at even though it's in black and white. Great point. Is this it looks like the guy from Smallville, to be honest. And it put me in the mind of that because it was in black and white, or whatever that show was called when it was in black and white till it got turned into color. Whatever that show was called.
Yeah, there's just various things, and I know that's it, I'm still learning, but there was various things that made me question whether or not this was a black person or a white person. I know they must have thrown in the uncle in there because he's for sure a black person. He's dark skin, and it's just at times it's kind of hard to say whether or not he's a white person. I mean, I have definitely met people who are non-white, but they have a lot of white features. So it's kind of hard to say whether or not this is a white person for me. That's why I had to ask the question to the group. Is this a white person?
Yeah, we covered it earlier, and he really briefly in the show he is classified as white, and he's accepted as white by other white people. So according to the code, he would be classified as white. But it looks like he goes in and out.
I would actually rebut that. Possibly with something that the victim's capturer said to him on the phone call. She said, I knew you were going to ASC. I knew it the whole time. And he's like, why? And then it's like symbolically she's showing him like, well, I knew you were black the whole time. And it's like a revelation to him. And that's what actually sent him off into the frenzy with the flamethrower, was the phone call with the suspected racist. She's like, I knew you weren't going. And she gave him all the rundown of what the panel didn't tell him. You're poor. You didn't get your paperwork done. Your father's not going to sign. It's like she had his whole background checked. She was telling him stuff that he didn't put together.
Yeah.
So she told him how he was classified.
Yeah, nobody asked him the critical question in the show. And then you have a victim telling him he's a white person. But if you follow the code, black people do not classify anybody. White people do the classifications. Racist man, racist woman. So even though that victim of racism may have called him a white, like he's white, he's that doesn't mean anything. That victim doesn't have any power, even though they're trying to make it appear that he does, because he gets to choose if he can give him a scholarship, or I guess go to college. Really, I mean, even the whole thing with that, there are a ton of white people who don't go to college and they're fine. So once again, I don't know if he's a white person or not. But because I can't say whether or not for sure that the critical question was asked if he's a white person. And when he was with the group of white people, right, they asked him, isn't that messed up, isn't that effed up what they're doing, and that's kind of what white people would ask a black person if they were a black person in the group. They're going to ask him about the black stuff, and they're looking to him to explain what's going on. That's just my evidence for the evidence that I've seen. So it's kind of like they think he's a black person. I don't know. I went on a little bit of a rant. Apologies.
I think Yahu's analysis summed it up. I think she and his the white people around him that he thinks are his friends but are really not, they're really suspected racist, that he should be cautious around. I think they may I think I may have been confused and thinking they accept him as a white person, but with Yahoo's analysis, especially this character here, maybe she, I know you're I know you're a nigger. That's why I was attracted to you. Especially that's why I'm attracted to you even more now when you're probably looking like this, like a destruction of the type. I mean, destruction of the black civilization, sort of black person. Yeah, the critical question was not asked.
That's another. I just want to. That's why I suspect this is written by the masters. This is just too much. Like it's too many. It even like it mixes and matches up too much. It's like when you eat. My father's from the South. It's like when you eat a white person's gumbo, it never tastes the same because they just throw everything in the pot. I'm going to say again, this is on that game I was talking about earlier. This is where you move the space by confusion. This is a masterful episode of confusion because we don't know what to look at. We don't even know if it's a white person or a black person. It's even kill. Like, but the blame is still, you look at where the blame is put at, and it's on black people, so you know that somebody white wrote that. In my opinion, in my theory of this episode and others.
And we have
I asked the critical question to him on Twitter.
So from the chat, we have from West Dakota, Stonewall Jackson High School. Stonewall was the so-called place in NYC, a bar that anti-sexuals used to meet up. So yeah, them promoting that behavior and also applying that, attaching that name to a place where children are supposed to be is definitely, hey, this is where we're trying to send, this is what we want the children doing, get them prepared for that, counter-sexual, anti-sexual behavior, get their minds extra confused, not, so I suspect that's going on, and that could probably be the only reason we see this character is because of the Stonewall Jackson reference, and the showrunners may have done a little research, about the Stone that area, and I'm sure they do. White people created anti-sexual, counter-sexual activities, so I'm pretty sure that they're well in the know of the Stonewall bar or whatever. Oh yeah, black culture. What's the quote? Also mentioned this episode is supposed to be about so-called black culture, and she asked a question: was anything they mentioned constructive? Was there anything they mentioned constructive? I don't think so. I don't think they mentioned anything that was constructive from black culture. Just a bunch of silly nonsense, a bunch of silly things we've been taught to do by the enemy, who classify themselves as racist men and racist women, and these people can only be white. Ash?
I think this, I'm not saying, I think that the Stonewall Jackson is also in reference to that they've been in the South, especially, they've been trying to change the names of a lot of schools, monuments, etc., named after Confederate soldiers. Though I'm not saying that there's not a double meaning, but I think everything about this show is just things that have happened in real life. And they just literally, they take it almost literally and put it in the show and just like mash it all together into one episode of multiple different things.
I saw that too. I saw it with the name that they gave to the victim who was transitioned, Kevin Samuels. They called him Robert S. Lee. And what did he do? He came and he tore down the sign and put up his own name. Robert E. Lee is who they're talking about. And Robert E. Lee and the Confederates caught a lot of flack in the past 3 years with tearing down monuments and stuff. I agree with that 100%. But the way that they put it so that victims are seen doing it, that's how I feel that they program it. So it keeps us in a more confused state instead of putting on the people who did it.
That's interesting. It's like, so Black people can feel good about this. I think it wants Black people to feel good about this, like, oh, he's putting his name on the school. He's tearing down that statue. You know, all symbolic things that mean nothing in the system of racism, white supremacy. So victims of racism are going to watch this and feel good about it. Makes them feel like something's being done, there's progress being made to ending the system of racism, white supremacy, when it's just symbolic. It doesn't mean anything.
What do you guys think is the significance of them having Kevin Samuels play this role? Because Yao, you put Umar. Well, like I'm wondering, did they go to other people first? Who, like, I wonder if they went to Umar Johnson, and they went to like Tariq Nasheed and asked them to play this role, but they maybe knew better than to play it. Because I'm wondering what the significance of having Kevin Samuels, because he does, though he talks about Black issues, he talks about like relationship type things, and it's odd to me to have him in this role. And I'm wondering if they tried to ask other Black people to maybe talk about Black issues online first.
I would say that one of the most important things said in this whole Decoded was 526 when he said the occult. I think that should always be viewed first and foremost when dealing with things of racism. We've all seen how things move in that nature when certain people come up either missing or not with us any longer. This is how you do it. And it's just, people are so distracted, they can't realize that they're actually witnessing what they're witnessing. And Atlanta is a great example of that when it comes to the occult side of things, or like how you literally manipulate masses of people. Emotion, fear, propaganda, and violence. It doesn't take much. Any proper mixing of one of those, you can get, a good mass of people going in a certain direction. And this is what we're looking at. When we're looking at it through the lens of how people have stated things to be, Neely Fuller, Francis Cress, we can go down the list. Now we can get a clearer view of what we're looking at. And we're looking at it, come on, the same thing in the continent. So you say we're talking about certain medicines and things, and all of a sudden you've lost 110 leaders in 1 year. Where was that on the news? 110 leaders on the continent were taken out last year. So it is what it is, In my opinion, this is a horrible example of media, because this person just passed away. This is a ritual in plain sight on the occult level. I'm mute.
Yeah, I would say why they chose Kevin Samuels. There could be a number of reasons. I suspect, like what I said at the beginning, we will not be privy to a lot of that information, but also the role, this character, and what did Kevin Samuels symbolize? I suspect to a lot of people he could have symbolized, he was attempting to gatekeep what it means to be I don't know, Black people attempting to coexist constructively in a so-called relationship. He was trying to gatekeep some aspects of how you should be Black and how you should be existing with another Black person. I suspect that is what he was trying to do, and I suspect that was what this character he plays also means. He's supposed to be a gatekeeper, and a gatekeeper just another silly term that we have been taught to use by the racist man, racist woman, that we try to do, where we're trying to protect something, we're trying to protect a label or protect access for something, which we really can't do, but we can pretend like we're doing it, which is what's happening here. He's gatekeeping Blackness. He's gatekeeping Aaron from his Black card or whatever the hell, Twitter logic, retarded logic we've been taught by the enemy to keep us in their grasp forever. And I hope that made sense, because I'm also a victim and highly confused.
Watching this, I also was thinking the same thing. So I thought of something right now while I was sitting here, similar to what everyone else has been saying. But I think Kevin Samuels, has recently, one would suggest he is the example of so-called masculinity, as a Black person, maybe even as a Black male to a lot. He, I guess, is defining that, has been defining that. So I feel like in this episode, he is supposed to be, the example of so-called Black male patriarchy. You have a Black male come into this school, buy the school, and offer to pay students tuition. So victims may think, oh, this is a powerful person. He has all this money, all this influence. He's able to do all these things. And, he is deciding whether or not this person, Aaron, can go or can get, his check, his money. Just an example of somebody having power. He gets to decide whether you get some of this capital, some of this money. So maybe it is to promote the idea of Black male patriarchy. I don't know. Still learning.
Yeah, and what's the code says? Kevin Samuel was popular on YouTube. He was selling confusion, not on purpose. Plus, he lived in Atlanta. So, yep, and also because the kind of information that he was promoting, I don't think it's a threat to white supremacy. Honestly, I don't think it is, because he's not telling people to end white supremacy, racism. So him living in Atlanta could have been another reason why I wanted to add him. But the ritual element, I randomly turned to this scene. Well, nothing's random, but I happened to come across this scene, and it says, "Name me 6 things that mix with Hennessy's." And if you spent some time, studying the hidden, studying what a lot of people would consider a conspiracy theory or like just Hollywood, nonsense, just Hollywood urban legends, you will see that in rituals and coded messages, this number 6 always comes up. It's just something I caught. And it's what's a very famous aspect of practicing hidden rituals or magic, which is just it's you have to tell the people you're practicing magic on, you have to tell them what you're going to do first, and a lot of ways that the racist men and racist women do that is by Area 3 entertainment. They'll say, hey, yeah, we're gonna knock them dead. Next thing you know, the black male, the black male image of attempting to be masculine, the black male image of attempting to be serious begins to die. We get more promotion in anti-sex and less access to black males attempting to be serious, even if it's highly confused. The attempt is still of constructive value, I suspect. But I could just be a rambling nigger, and a lot of times I am, because this is a creature I've been made by the racist man and racist woman, and I am attempting to correct it.
I heard you say something accurate in my opinion. You said the use of magic in racist man and racist woman's programming, and I saw it. I wrote it down. I saw it. The use of cigars and also rum. What if the only thing that they liked when he was talking about what goes good with Hennessy, he said rum. Why are you mixing rum and cognac, first of all? But rum, obviously, it was a huge part of the slave trade and a huge part of the demonization of, traditional spiritual systems. But I just found out with the rum, and they had Kevin Samuels smoking a cigar, a man that doesn't even promote smoking cigarettes at all. Out of all the stuff he promotes, he doesn't promote smoking, but they have him with a big black phallic symbol, the cigar, which is used in spiritual rituals. Everybody knows that, and they're talking about how they like the rum. Very interesting.
Yeah, anyone who's tapped into actual practice of I actually want to change my surroundings with magic. They should know that rum, alcohol is involved in that, and that is an excellent catch, because I didn't even know, I didn't catch it. So the number 6, the mentioning of the alcohol, because they're in school, they shouldn't be doing any of this stuff, but because we are possibly seeing a highly refined, sophisticated racist ritual on screen right now, the ritual requires consumption of alcohol. The ritual requires, lighting of a black phallus. When we can't put a candle right here, so this is the best thing we can do right here, a cigar. Could be. Do folks have any more notes they want to chime over? If not, I will read the revolutionary daily thought from Nyan Sasim. But one final thing from What's the Code, she says, Kevin Samuel will promote the term high value man. Yeah, no such thing exists unless we're talking about white people, a white man.
I just wanted to add, Ash put the guy Aaron, his Twitter in the chat, so I checked it out. I don't know if everybody else did too. But in his header, the picture on his profile in the background, he's in there with a black female, older black female, maybe suggesting that's his grandma. Still don't know. That's definitely not on purpose. But yeah, I would like to know what he is, what he's classified as, because I don't know. That's all I wanted to add. I asked him the critical question.
And his name is Tyreek, to add confusion.
Tyreek, interesting.
Yeah, he could just be a highly refined, suspected racist, and he could be who knows? It's best to ask that person or the white people who are in charge.
I feel like if he's a white person or if he's a victim, it kind of changes the context of the episode. Like imagine watching it knowing exactly what he is.
That's what I was saying about when it was first screened, I didn't have sound and I thought it was a white person. Like the power of sound in media when we're looking at visuals. I agree. That's why I say it was made to cause confusion. Like just resume natural practices of counter racism, because this was just made to confuse. The episode, in my opinion, was made to confuse counter racism because it was seeing everything.
Just trying to take color out of it too, you know, with the black and white, you know, color and all the things associated with it.
Well, also how the use of mixed children is used in warfare, how public opinion on that, we can see that. I've seen that through videos on like 1 million comments on like an albino cat. Looking at that through kind of racist logic, I see why there's 1 million comments on that. Like just the use of that, like just the use of not knowing what the star of the show is, like puts it at a, like his, you know, his so-called wife is telling him one thing and his so-called victim is telling him something else. Like he doesn't even know, but it still ends up in violence.
Yeah, this show is loaded with, this episode is loaded with symbolism and coded messages. What's the code mentioned how the gym was pitch black while there's a white light shining on the victims, you know, and that could mean a lot. But the most important thing is, hey, everyone, we are definitely in a system of white supremacy, and this show reflects the tacky, trashy, and terroristicness of it all. White light show. This is from What's the Code as well. We are taught by racist men and racist women and a form of so-called education. And there's a white light shown on victims in order to receive money to. Oh yeah, that's true, you know. And they definitely get getting put on a spot. Yeah. Okay, are folks done with their notes? Give me a little reaction so I can know if folks are done with their notes so we can wrap up. Oh yeah, and I just have to you remind me of something. What's the code? She says pay for college so victims can beg for jobs. That reminds me that this victim who, you know, burned down the who got shot, you know, and burned down tried to burn down the school. I'm like, is he gonna be allowed to go to college after doing that in a system of white supremacy? Maybe. I doubt it though. So it's just really silly, really silly. And also, it was mentioned in the chat by What's the Code as well, how Kevin Samuel says, take him to the Grady area of the hospital, take him to the white area, basically take him to a part of the hospital where he won't be mistreated because he's black. Is essentially what he's telling. And that's very, very, very common. And this is white supremacy. There's like hospitals that are out there that are notorious amongst black people. Hey, you don't want to go to that hospital, you end up dead. You end up dead at Memorial Hospital or whatever they're calling the death center disguised as a hospital. Yeah, very common, very tacky, even very terroristic. You know, to think you're going to a hospital, but you're really going to a place where people who are pretending to be doctors but are really white supremacists are going to experiment on you and harm you. You know, and if you do leave, you're probably going to leave a lot worse than you came in there. So this is existing in the system of white supremacy. Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me, what I said about the symbolism, paying for college so they can beg for jobs. This black male, didn't had it all like symbolic things that black people are given. He got his name on it. He got his name on his school. That only gets him. He's only now he's allowed to be inside, and now he's giving out people. He's not giving out checks to people. He's not giving money to them. He's giving them college because he said he's going to pay for their tuition. So they're going to go to college. So black people receive free college all the time. They like those white kids were saying, they got programs and foundations for that. And black people on the globe still find ourselves being dominated by a system of racism, white supremacy, counter-racist logic. He here at the last scene, the only thing that got that black person to the hospital was the fact that he had to pay the white EMS person. Him saying it wasn't enough, but he had to pay him. I don't know if that means anything, it's money, but yeah.
And it's also could be, that's another dangerous scene because sneaking in that confusion. Hey, that it's sneaking in the confusion that money talk. If you got enough money, it doesn't matter if you're black. You can still do a lot of things. False black money and white money function way differently. So yeah, he had to bribe. He had to bribe the white man and a black male in order for the black child to receive medical treatment in a correct manner. Yep, that is correct. Yep. And tragically, in the system of white supremacy, if that happened more, perhaps less black people would die in these hospitals. But no one has money to bribe, EMS people, EMT people.
I think that might be some, I suspect that might be some really good decoding right there. The victim that we're talking about, Kevin Samuels, was propagated through racist man or racist woman on these algorithms as an alpha male because of his monetary wealth, but it still couldn't change anything when it comes to what happened. So again, yeah, wow, the writing on this show was I understand why it's up for awards. I'll put it that way.
What do you think is the psychology of or the reasoning behind why Aaron becomes who he becomes in the last scene?
I was wondering the same thing. I don't have an answer for it yet, though. I'm thinking about it.
I saw it as a really cliche ending that the writers want to shoehorn in. And hey, he finally came into his blackness. Ta-da! That's what I see this as. He's finally accepted his niggerization. And that's what I see it as. Could be incorrect. He may I'm classified as white, but I'm gonna pretend to be a black male. That could be the case as well, depending on how one chooses to look at it.
Also, in the use of framing and colors and symbolism. Just in what you said about that, like that last scene, it reminded me of how Suspected Man and Suspected Woman put out shows like Friday. And like at the very last scene, it's called Breaking the Fourth Wall, when the actor looks at the camera.
Oh, that was an accident. Yes. Continue, Mr. Yahoo. Yahoo, you got muted. You have to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Wigga win, Wigger win, Wigger loses. So he's obviously winning when he can, have a fresh fade and get. I mean, it looked like he was working either like at a swap meet or some kind of lower budget mall structure,
like a Best Buy type situation.
Something like that. He's selling his phone number for discounts. But then, obviously here comes the triple T's around the corner, kind of, you can see she's, been through a lot at school, maybe down, obviously on the portrayal of, the white woman has to be in a down state to want to be reattracted with Black people when it's all states in reality. So just highly refined cinematography and everything.
Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning the fourth wall breaking, because I definitely caught that. He's like looking at the audience, and it's almost like he gives us a shoulder shrug, like, like I got that from this as well. And it's like, the joke's
how
on
the world
us.
looks at Black people. Like, we know that the joke's on us, so let's just roll with it. Like, he's back with the white girl again. Just this masterful display of, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that Mr. Glover wrote this. That's just my thesis.
But we have to understand, victim of racism, Donald Glover, he's been amongst white people for a very long time. So he may have been, he may have been put to a number of mistreatment in the form of like, rituals that he has to go through to the point where his mind is capable of producing stuff like this. But you may be correct as well. But we must remember he's a writer for 30 Rock allegedly, and that show very white. I didn't watch it, but what I did watch of it was very just not intended for people classified as Black, I suspect. Even though I'm sure many of us watched it.
I would say BGQ, and I would say that there's always editors and people.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. Oh yeah. Just for the record, I am definitely certain white people added stuff, inserted stuff, helped with this, set up the scenes, helped with everything. They definitely. I suspect in all media, all entertainment, I shouldn't even say media, in all entertainment, I suspect if we are not understanding white supremacy, we are always speaking. We are Black people, we're non-white people, but the things we're saying here, we might as well be a white person. And we are like speaking through white people. No, my bad, I'm incorrect. White people are speaking through us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So the last scene, Ash, did you say the psychology of the episode or the scene? Was that what you asked?
Yeah, the psychology of the character, how he comes into becoming this person, because it's quite a transformation. So I'm just wondering, like, what do you think was like they're trying to show went through his mind, or the reasoning why, or the process that he becomes who he is at the end of the episode?
I mean, I would say he's like a white sacrifice, you know, maybe. But maybe it's to demonstrate that he's like experienced some kind of trauma. So he's a damaged individual now. And damaged individuals act like Black people. If you've been traumatized, you've been abused. I don't know if if it showed him being abused, but traumatized, you know, you're gonna act like a Black person. You know, if I could decode the scene, I would say, you know, he may be seen as a white sacrifice, but he still has, you know, power. I mean, Black females obviously, I guess, find him attractive. I think that was what that scene was promoting, and the white female still wants him. So, you know, a white girl that went to college. So maybe it's not so bad for him. You know, he gets to imitate a Black person, or I don't know. Once again, I don't know if he's white or not white, but he gets to live out that part of him, and you know, I don't know. I guess it seems like things are gonna work out for him.
So shows are also, white people will allow these shows to come about because they are also intended to help white people, you know, could be sort of seen as like as instruction manuals and whatnot. There's a show called Bridgerton or something like that, and I saw a lot of white people praising this show because white men were getting more sex from their partners because of the show, you know. So this may be a nod to white man. Hey, it is now time for you all to go out and get fades, you know, go out and get designs in your hair because you got, you know, you guys are gonna go balding anyway. So, you know, go get the Black haircuts, you know, go sexually dominate and confuse more Black females because that is a power that we have as white men, white women on planet Earth. So that also could be a message being promoted here. You know, follow suit. You know, go forth and conquer these subjects as we've been doing for thousands of years.
It reminds me of, you know, some of what you're saying reminds me of how, like, I believe like racist man, racist woman keep having to pump out these products to quench, you know, the thirst that they have for practicing racism. So like the white females, you know, reading Race Code War, you know, the Black cigarettes that they kept smoking, you know, they're symbolically fulfilling their desire for Black penises. So now, you know, the white supremacist is informing these white males that, you know, you got to go out, start imitating the Black male. You know, we've made all these examples for you. Just follow them around for a little bit and learn how they act, and, you know, start acting like that. Get the white female back because they're trying to get they're trying to get Black penises again. So, you know, you gotta refine yourself, bring them back to you, or, you know, something along those lines.
Ash, to answer your question, I was thinking about that when you asked it. I see it as you have to come out Black and work at the mall after you've been to prison. Like he goes from the cop car to comes out with a fade. He has a new accent. He's talking to Black women. He even tries to exert a little bit of manhood when he tells the white woman to hold on for a second as he turns his back on her to talk to a Black woman, you know, well, a Black female. But that's like, you know, I guess that's what's to be shown is what is taught when you come out of prison. This is the best job that you can get. So I guess you can use whatever little power you have to still manipulate non-white people, or attempt to manipulate white people sexually, because that's still all you have. You've just become a better sex unit out of prison.
Another excellent analysis from Mr. Yahoo. Yeah, I definitely caught that too when he said, "Hold up." Anyway, any more notes folks want to share before I read the calendar quote of the day? I'm also thinking as well. Alrighty, so I'm going to read from Nyan Seisim, A Calendar of Revolutionary Daily Thoughts by Mawalimu K. Baruti. And I'm going to read from May 13th, because today is May 13th, 2022. Rise in wisdom, leave ignorance to those who have a passion for it, and you will meet with more truth. Michael Corbett. Eldership, like ancestralship, is earned. An old fool without an old fool without vision who gains satisfaction in promoting a defeatist attitude among his or her progeny should be dismissed for the fool he or she has spent a lifetime becoming. However, those elders who work to hone warriors for that certain inescapable final battle should ever have our complete attention. Affirm the wise have my attention. And while we're here, hey, let's give some attention to the wise that this quote is actually referencing. And I would say Neely Fuller Jr., Dr. Francis Chris Wilson, Almason Wilson, Dr. Almason Wilson, Dr. Bobby E. Wright, Dr. Mariba Ani, and I'll let folks, if folks want to give some, throw some names out to some wise scholars, go for it.
I think you covered it.
I would definitely add George Jackson to that. I would definitely add Sheikh Anta Diop. I would add Dr. Clark. I would add Dr. Vinyakanen. Definitely Dr. Joy De La Grue. So many. Just I mean, the entire, whether it's historian, Egyptologist, whatever, we are classified as a collective unit. They were all working against racism, white supremacy. So I just I'm thankful that they were, they did what they did. Nat Turner as well, and other, counter-violence workers.
Indeed, I really appreciate this quote, this affirmation, and some more names I victims should hear, and maybe get some of their materials are here. I would say also attention to the wise to Gus T. Renegade, Richard King, definitely Malcolm X. Listen to his speech on white supremacy. And yeah, this is a very constructive broadcast. Thanks everyone for their participation. And oh yeah. And yeah, even Kevin Samuels, a victim of racism, in his confusion, perhaps he was attempting to actually help Black people. If that was the case, then may he rest in peace. And